Hello and welcome again to the Writer Review. This is Eric Currut Writer, and this week we're going to be taking a look back at the 2013 movie titled The Conjuring. Yes, I know I usually do a lot of retro reviews over the past few months, but I thought I'd do something a little more closer to today. And I guess you could say this is about as closest as it could come. Now, The Conjuring is directed by James Wan, and the cinematography was done by John Leonetti, and the writing credits go to Chad and Carrie Hayes, and the stars of the movie are Vera Farmiga, Patrick Wilson, Lilli Taylor, and Ron Livingston. The genre of the movie, it's a supernatural, paranormal thriller, and it was rated R, although I kind of have my doubts that this should have been classified as an R-rated movie because of the fact that there was, like very little in terms of violence, not too much blood. And I think it was kind of like watered down, but then again, hey, isn't that what a horror movie is about? It's not about gratuitous violence or ugly bloodshed or a massive body count. Come on, this is a supernatural, paranormal horror film, not a Friday the 13th slasher film like many people probably may have been disappointed by. But me, I personally was not disappointed at all by the movie. Now, usually horror films that claim are actually based on true events, you kind of like try your hardest to suspend any kind of skepticism in hopes that there is some form of truth lurking around. You truly want to believe that the terror tales actually do have some truth implemented in them. You might have your beliefs suspended, but I think the best thing to do is to go into this movie or any kind of movies of this genre and to just take it with an open mind. Take their word for it. I don't care whether you're a believer or a skeptic. Just, sit back and enjoy the flick. Isn't that what movie watching should be about? In the realms of the supernatural horror film, I feel there is no need to spoon-feed our audiences any further than offering the material they have in front of their eyes. Are the situations faced in these stories real? There is a possible chance it may be, but is the story itself accurate? More oftentimes, not. They will dramatize certain scenes just to make the movie, more entertaining. And maybe in the situation of this movie, The Conjuring, maybe a lot of scenes were a bit convoluted. But this is actually based on a true story. And it was centered around, and that Ed and Lorraine Newman really did went into this dilapidated farmhouse in Harrisville, Rhode Island, where they investigated a series of misfortunate hauntings from a misfortunate family who fell victim to what evil is lurking around in their house. The Conjuring, directed by James Wan, focuses on the traditional haunted house story and delivers us some very powerful but somewhat mundane scares, and mundane does not necessarily mean it's entirely a bad thing. I mean, the scares were offered in a low-key term, but very, very believable. And I have to say that this movie itself exceeds above other movies of this genre, though the quality can at times be a little bit lackluster. The opening scenes start off involves a possessed doll, which kind of like paves the way open to our leading heroes, a pair of paranormal investigators named Ed and Leslie Warren, played by Patrick Wilson and Vera Farmiga. The story turns its attention to the Perron family, led by Roger and Caroline, played by Ron Livingston and Lilli Taylor, who in 1971 move into a dilapidated farmhouse in Rhode Island, along with their 5 daughters, Andrea, Christina, Nancy, April, and Cindy, and their dog Sadie. No sooner than they settle in which the strange stuff manifests within their surroundings, as secret passageways start to unravel, and the family dog becomes very suspicious, who even refuses to come into the house. The hauntings are thrown at them, left, right, and center, as mysterious bruises materialize on their skin, clocks stopping for no reason at ironically 3:07, doors open by themselves. While these things happen, you know, one of the great idiosyncrasies about this movie is that the horror elements are never rushed, and that actually creates more of an eerie, chilling atmosphere than just being spoon-fed by letting the demons out of the bag. They progressively make you frightened, and that's what James Wan succeeds here. Once they've had enough, it was time for the Perrons to call the Warrens to investigate the paranormal activities going on in their house. The Warrens eventually move in with the family to seek out what kind of supernatural occurrences are bothering the Perrons, so that they can gain permission from the Catholic Church to see if they can possibly perform an exorcism to the house, and maybe even possibly to the families. Their research leads up to the forces behind these evil intentions, from a lady named Bathsheba, played by Joseph Bishara, who in 1863 was claimed to be a witch and was caught trying to sacrifice and kill her 7-day-old infant child. And the movie just carries along with one thing happening after another, either cementing the side story or just simply randomizing one scare after another, until we've reached a pivotal climax. Now, what makes The Conjuring more compelling was the performances. As surreal as the story may be at times, the performances, especially the Warrens and the Perrons, definitely the emotions they bring to their audience speaks volumes louder than words. Even the daughters who are in the cast are kind of relatively unknown, with the exception of maybe the actress Joey King. She's been in a few projects. They also succeed in delivering an emotional range that never seems forced or let alone contrived. When the performers feel the fear factor, the audience can feel it as well. And these are not, you know, wooden caricatured characters who we just couldn't really give a shit about. And, you know, hey, let this evil witch kill them off. No, we don't feel that. We actually sympathize with them. We actually don't want any of the children to die. We want the parents, the family to, you know, live in peace, in hopes that this Bathsheba demon would just simply leave them alone. let them go on and let them live their lives. That way they don't have to go through all this torment. And maybe by having an exorcism, maybe Bathsheba can finally, regain peace, or maybe even try to come to an understanding that whatever has happened in her past life, to just, move on to the other side of life, whether it's going to heaven or going to hell. Just leave the Perrons at peace. And I think that's what the audience wants, and that's what we kind of expect from this movie. Therefore, for a horror movie, I actually felt the performances were actually pretty good. I mean, not Oscar-worthy, no, but the emotional manipulation, it really sells itself pretty good, and I was, very, very convinced. The other factor is the level of scares. Sure, people will say that, it's been done a million times before, for better or worse, but here, the execution is actually quite solid. The unsettling camera with its off-kilter angles create a spectrum of uncomfortable images and situations, like ghosts materializing in the mirror, eerie whispers, and doors slamming on their own. Those effects are what makes this movie stand out. The unexpectancy of these happenings really create such a dark and dreary atmosphere. Yes, it's been done before, but the execution here is chilling and convincing. However, the scares seem to only work, but in a subtle fashion, and it lacks in terms of having a deep impact to its audience. I guess, people want to see, somebody die. When you think of horror slasher films, you think of a massive body count, and then we come to an epic climax where the hero slays whatever evil entity is brewing. I mean, if you were expecting to see a Friday the 13th or a Nightmare on Elm Street or a Halloween type of story, this is not the movie for you. This movie ranks among the annals of more psychological horrors like Insidious, Paranormal Activity, amongst many others in that area. The Hills Have Eyes. Director James Wan, however, ignores to develop a more impacted thread, which could vibrate the audience once the end credits are finished. It probably is something that could have been into consideration. With the myriad of horror remakes and sequels, it would be nice to have, a scene like in The Exorcist implanted into the story. For a film that tries to go beyond the fear factor of the paranormal, The Conjuring somehow fails miserably. The digging for evidence is only dependent on mainly for the action and not much elsewhere. And for what is given to us is that the Warrens believe that the Perrons are just another case file. Yes, I know they've scoped through many different houses in their times. And, for an added twist at the end, we discover that this movie almost at times feels like a prequel to their other famous case file. That's right. Because at the end they get a call saying they were assigned to go to deal with some house settlement located in Long Island, New York. Is that a clue for you? That's right. This movie kind of felt like a prequel to the Amityville Horror. And, at times I felt like it felt more like a case file than an actual movie itself. Where do we go after this case has zero concern for us? In fact, I probably would have liked to have seen maybe an epilogue, like an aftermath, as to like what happens to the Perron family once the exorcism took place. Did the manifestations went away? Did all the horror just completely been expunged once the exorcism was finished? I mean, I would have liked to know like what happened after the exorcism, what had become of Roger and Caroline Perron and the rest of their daughters. I know that Lorraine Warren and Andrea Warren, one of the Perron daughters, actually served as creative consultants in the making of this movie. There's still like very little after the movie. Once this is over, it looks like we never really know or hear from the Perrons. What if I want to just, you know, like after the execution, I want to knock on the door and see like what they're doing? I mean, I would love to hear more from the other Perron family members. Yes, I know Andrea Perron served as a creative consultant, and she also wrote a series of books which was the inspiration for this movie, The Conjuring. And you know, just by after watching this movie, I would love to read Andrea Perron's 3-part novels about her experiences in the house where her sisters and her parents stayed. In the early scene that situates the Warrens lecturing at university students as they would prefer to be either as ghost hunters or kooks. I think kooks kind of best describes them. Although it feels as though the movie is based or inspired by actual events, but suspending one's disbelief seems to be the direction this movie is going. There's a lot of traditional horror elements that these kooks won't tell. In fact, you know, this movie was actually this case file that this movie is about was actually kept a deep dark secret for many years. And actually, believe it or not, this movie was like 20 years in the making. And this was kind of like this movie was like kept a secret until now. But I think it was definitely worth the wait, and it was good that a director like James Wan decided to go about with this movie, and I think he did a very formidable job, so hats off to him. Hats off to cinematographer John Leonetti, and also a great script by the Hayes brothers of Chad and Carrie Hayes, so hats off to them. The performances were pretty good. If I was to grade this movie out of 10, I would give this a 7 out of 10. So, I would highly recommend you guys to see The Conjuring. And also, if you want more about Ed and Lorraine Warren, tune in, because on October 3rd there is going to be the premiere of the 2014 movie coming out this October called Annabelle, which is a spin-off loosely based on the Annabelle doll. I don't understand why they wanted to use a more creepier porcelain doll. That I didn't understand. They could have just, it would have been more effective if they would have used like a Raggedy Ann doll that was possessed. That would have probably been more effective. But again, that was just a minor quibble. So I guess that ends my writer review. Thank you so much, and please write in any comments, subscribe to my channel, remember, be kind, be courteous, and I will be back again with another review. Till next time, take care of yourselves, and goodbye.